In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
Hell. On the second night after the creation of my God, a vision made known to me that I have reached the underworld. I find myself in a gloomy vault whose floor consists of damp stone slabs. In the middle there is a column from which ropes and axes hang, and the foot of the column there lies an awful serpent-like tangle of human bodies. At first I catch sight of the figure of a young maiden with wonderful red golden hair. A man of devilish appearance is laying half under her. His head is bent backwards. A thin streak of blood runs down his forehead. Two similar daemons have thrown themselves over the maiden's feet and body. Their faces bear an inhuman expression. The living evil, their muscles are taut and hard, and their bodies sleek like serpents. They lie motionless. The maiden holds her hand over one eye of the man lying beneath her. Who is the most powerful of the three? Her hand firmly clasps a small silver fishing rod that she has driven into the eye of the devil.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Hey everybody, I'm John. This is the Abracast. Thank you for tuning in. We are working our way through Jung's Liber Novus, or the Red Book. And I see no reason to stop now. I break out in a profuse cold sweat, and they wanted to torture the maiden to death, but she defended herself with the force of the most extreme despair, and succeeded in piercing the eye of the evil one with the little hook. If he moves, she will tear out his eye with one final jerk. The horror paralyzes me. What'll happen? And a voice speaks. The evil one cannot make a sacrifice. He cannot sacrifice his eye. Victory is with the one who can sacrifice. Boom. There it is, right out of the gate. The vision vanished, and I saw that my soul had fallen into the power of the abysmal evil. The power of evil is unquestionable, and we rightfully fear it. Here, no prayers, no pious words, no magical sayings help. Once raw power comes after you, there is no help. Once evil seizes you without pity, no father, no mother, no right, no wall and tower, no armor and protective power come to your aid. You fall powerless and forlorn into the hand of the superior power of evil. In this battle, you are all alone, because I wanted to give birth to my God. I also wanted evil. He who wants to create the eternal fullness will also create eternal emptiness. You cannot undertake one without the other. But if you want to escape evil, you will create no God. Everything that you do is tepid and gray. I wanted my God for the sake of grace and disgrace. Hence, I also wanted my evil. If my God were not overpowering, neither would be my evil. But I want my God to be powerful and beyond all measure happy and lustrous. Only in this way do I love my God. The luster of his beauty will also have me taste the very bottom of hell. My God rose in the eastern sky brighter than the heavenly host and brought about a new day for all the people. This is why I want to go to hell. Would a mother not want to give up her life for her child? How much easier would it be to give up my life if only my God could overcome the torment of the last hour of the night and victoriously break through the red mists of the morning? I do not doubt. I also want evil for the sake of my God. I entered into the unequal battle, since it is always unequal and without doubt a lost cause. How terrible and despairing would this battle be otherwise? But precisely this is how it should be. Nothing is more valuable to this evil one than his eye, since only through his eye can emptiness seize gleaming fullness. Because of the emptiness lacks fullness, it craves fullness and its shining power. And it drinks it by the means of its eye, which is able to grasp the beauty and unsullied radiance of fullness. The emptiness is poor, and if it lacked its eye, it would be hopeless. It sees the most beautiful and wants to devour it in order to spoil it. The devil knows that what is beautiful, and hence he is the shadow of the beauty, and follows it everywhere, awaiting the moment when the beautiful, writhing, great with child, seeks to give life to the God. If your beauty grows, the dreadful worm will creep up you, waiting for its prey. Nothing is sacred to him except his eye, with which he sees the most beautiful. He will never give up his eye. He is invulnerable, but nothing protects his eye. It is delicate and clear, adept at drinking in the eternal light. It wants you, the bright red light of your life. I recognize the fearful devilishness of human nature, and I cover my eyes before it, but I put out my hand to fend it off. If anyone wants to approach me for fear that my shadow could fall on him, or his shadow could fall on me, since I also see the devilish in him, who is the harmless companion of his shadow. No one touches me. Death and crime lie in wait for you and me. You smile innocently, my friend. Don't you see that a gentle flickering of your eye betrays the frightfulness whose unsuspecting messenger you are? Your bloodthirsty tiger growls softly. Your poisonous serpent hisses secretly, while you, conscious only of your goodness, offer your human hand to me in greeting. I know your shadow and mine, and follow, and comes with us, and only waits for the hour of twilight when he will strangle you and me with all the demons of night. What an abyss of blood-dripping history separates you from me. I grasped your hand and looked at you. I lay my head on your lap and felt the living warmth of your body on mine, as if it were my own body, and suddenly I felt a smooth cord around my neck, which choked me mercilessly, and a cruel hammer blow struck a nail into my temple, and I was dragged by my feet along the pavement, and the wild hounds gnawed my body in the lonely night. No one should be astonished that men are so far removed from one another. They cannot understand one another, that they wage war and kill one another. One should be much more surprised that men believe they are close and understand one another and love one another. The two things are yet to be discovered. The first is the infinite gulf that separates us from one another. The second is the bridge that could connect us. Have you considered how much unsuspected animality human company makes possible? When my soul fell into the hands of evil, it was defenseless, except for the weak fishing rod which it could use. Ah, the maiden, the fiery-haired maiden is Jung's soul. That's interesting. I guess I should have figured that out by now, huh? Did you know? Did you figure it out? The eye of the evil one sucked in all the force of my soul. Only its will remained, which is just the small fishhook. I wanted evil since I realized that I was not able to include it. And because I wanted evil, my soul held a precious hook in its hand. What was I supposed to strike the vulnerable place of the evil one? Who does not want evil will have no chance to save his soul from hell. So long as it remains in the light of the upper world, he will become a shadow of himself, but his soul will languish in the dungeons of the demons. This will act as a counterbalance that will forever constrain him. The higher circles of the inner world will remain unattainable for him. He remains where he was indeed. He falls back. You know, these people, and you know how extravagantly nature strews human life and force on barren deserts. You should not lament this. Otherwise, you will become a prophet and will seek to redeem what cannot be redeemed. Do you know that this nature also dungs its field with men? Take in the seeker, but do not go out seeking those who err. What do you know about this error? Perhaps it is sacred. The sacred error? That's awesome. You should not disturb the sacred. Do not look back and regret nothing. You see many near you fall. You feel compassion. But you should live your life. Since then, at least 1 in 1,000 will remain. You cannot halt dying. But why did my soul not tear out the eye of the evil one? The evil one has many eyes, and losing one amounts to losing none. But if she had done it, she would have come completely under the spell of the evil one. The evil one can only fail to make a sacrifice. You should not harm him, above all, not his eye, since the most beautiful would not exist if the evil one did not see it and long for it. The evil one is holy. There is nothing the emptiness can sacrifice, since it always suffers lack. Only fullness can sacrifice, since it has fullness. Emptiness cannot sacrifice its hunger for fullness, since it cannot deny its own essence. Therefore, we also need evil, but I can sacrifice my will to evil because I previously received fullness. All strength flows back to me, since the evil one has destroyed the image I had of the formation of the God, but the image of the God's formation in me was not yet destroyed. I dread this destruction, since it is terrible. An unprecedented desecration of temples. Everything in me strives against this abysmal abomination, for I still do not know what it means to give birth to a god. The sacrificial murder. But this was the vision that I did not want to see. The horror that I did not want to live. A sickening feeling of nausea sneaking up on me. An abominable, perfidious Serpents wind their way slowly and crackling through parched undergrowth. They hang down lazily and disgustingly lethargic from the branches looped in dreadful knots. I am reluctant to enter this dreary and unsightly valley where the bushes stand as an arid, stony defiles. The valley looks so normal. Its air smells of crime, of foul, cowardly deeds. I am seized by disgust and horror. I walk hesitantly over the boulders, avoiding every dark place for fear of treading on a serpent. The sun shines weakly out of the gray and distant sky, and all the leaves are shriveled. A marionette with a broken head lies before me amidst the stones. A few steps further, the small apron, and then from behind a bush, the body of a small girl covered with terrible wounds, smeared with blood. One foot is clad with a stocking and a shoe, and the other is naked and gorily crushed. With a head. Where is the head? The head is a mash of blood with hair and whitish pieces of bone surrounded by stones smeared with brains and blood. My gaze is captivated by this awful sight. A shrouded figure like that of a woman is standing calmly next to me. Next to their child, and her face is covered by an impenetrable veil. And she asked me, "What do you say?" What should I say? This is beyond words. "Do you understand this?" I refuse to understand such things. I can't speak about them without becoming enraged. Why become enraged? You might as well rage every day of your life, for these and similar things occur every day. Most of the time, we don't see them. So knowing that they happen is not enough to enrage you? If I merely have knowledge of something, it's easier and simpler. The horror is less real if all I have is knowledge. Step nearer and you will see that the body of the child has been cut open to take out the liver. I cannot touch this corpse. If someone witnessed this, they would think that I am a murderer. You are cowardly. Take out the liver. Why should I do this? This is absurd. I want you to remove the liver. You must do it. Who are you to give me such an order? I am the soul of this child. You must do this for my sake. I don't understand, but I will believe you, and I will do this horrific and absurd deed. I reach into the child's visceral cavity. It is still warm. The liver is still firmly attached, and I take my knife and I cut it free of the ligaments. Then I take it out and hold it with bloody hands towards the figure. Thank you. What should I do? You know what the liver means. You ought to perform the healing act with it. What is to be done? Take a piece of the liver in place of the whole and eat it. What are you demanding? This is absolute madness. This is desecration, necrophilia. You make me a guilty party to this most hideous of all crimes. You have devised the most horrible torment for the murderer, which could atone for this act. There is only one atonement: abase yourself and eat. I cannot. I refuse. I cannot participate in this horrible guilt. You share in this guilt. I share in this guilt? You are a man, and man has committed this deed. Yes, I am a man. I curse whoever did this for being a man, and I curse myself for being a man. So take part in this act, abase yourself and eat. I need atonement. So shall it be for your sake, as you are the soul of this child. I kneel down on the stone, and I cut a piece of the liver, and I put it in my mouth. My gorge rises and tears burst from my eyes. Cold sweat covers my brow. A dull, sweet taste of blood I swallow with desperate efforts. It is impossible. Once again and once again, I almost faint. It is done. The horror has been accomplished. I thank you. She throws her veil back in a beautiful maiden with ginger hair. Do you recognize me? How strangely familiar you are. Who are you? I am your soul. The sacrifice has been accomplished. The divine child from the image of God's formation is slain, and I have eaten from the sacrificial flesh. The child, that is, the image of God's formation, not only bore my human craving, but also enclosed all the primordial elemental powers that the sons of their son possesses as an inalienable inheritance. The God needs all this for his genesis. And when he has been created, he hastens away into the unending space. We need the gold of the sun. We need to regenerate ourselves. But as the creation of a God is a creative act of highest love, the restoration of our human life signifies the act of the below, the great and dark mystery. Man cannot accomplish this act solely by himself, but is assisted by evil, which does instead of man. But man must recognize his complicity in the acts of evil. He must bear witness to the recognition by eating from the bloody sacrificial flesh. Although this act, he testifies that he is a man and he recognizes good as well as evil, and that he destroys the image of the God's formation through withdrawing his life force, with which he also dissociates himself from the God. This occurs for the salvation of the soul, which is the true mother of the divine child. When it bore and gave birth to God, my soul was of human nature throughout. It possessed the primordial power since time immemorial, but also in a dormant condition. They flowed into forming the God without my help. And through the sacrificial murder, I redeemed the primordial power and added them to my soul. Since they became part of the living pattern, they also no longer dormant, but awake and active and erudite my soul and their divine working. Through this, it receives the divine attribute, hence the eating of the sacrificial flesh. Aided by the healing, the ancients have also indicated this to us, that they taught us to drink the blood and eat the flesh of the Savior. The ancients believed that this brought healing to the soul. There are not many truths. There are only a few. Their meaning is too deep to grasp others than in symbol. A God is no stronger than man. What is he? You still should taste the holy dread. You would you be worthy of enjoying the wine in the bread? If you have touched the black bottom of human nature, hence you are lukewarm and pale. Shadows, pale shadows, proud of your shadows, coastlines and broad country roads. And the floodgates will be opened. There are inexorable things from which only God can save you. The primordial force is the radiance of the sun, which the sons of the suns have carried in themselves for aeons and pass to their children. But if the soul dips into radiance, she becomes as remorseless as the God himself, since the life of the divine child which you have eaten will feel like glowing coals in you. It will burn inside you like a terrible, inextinguishable fire, You, despite from all the torment, cannot let it be, since it will not let you be. From this you will understand that your God is alive, and that your soul has begun wandering on remorseless paths. You feel the fire of the sun has erupted in you. Something new has been added to you, a holy affliction. Sometimes you no longer recognize yourself, and you want to overcome it, but it overcomes you, and you want to set limits, but it compels you to keep going, and you want to elude it, but it comes with you. You want to employ it, but you are its tool. You want to think about it, but your thoughts obey it. Finally, the fear of the inescapable seizes you, for it comes after you slowly and invisibly. There is no escape. So it is that you come to know what is real. God is. You now you'll think up clever truisms, preventative measures, secret escape routes, excuses, potions capable of inducing forgetfulness, but it's all useless. The fire burns right through you. That which guides forces you onto the way. But the way is my own self, my own life founded upon myself. The God wants my life, and he wants to go with me, sit at the table with me, work with me. Above all, he wants to be ever present. But I am ashamed of my God. I do not want to be divine, but reasonable. The divine appears to me as irrational craziness. I hate it. It is an absurd disturbance in my meaningful human activity. It seems like unbecoming sickness which has stolen into the regular course of my life. Yes, I even find the divine superfluous.
Learn more at Abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that, plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at Subscribestar.com.
Also, take a minute to tell you about Abracast.com. You can find the featured topic links there. You can find the link to sign into the mailing list, or the Fulgar Correspondentia, as it is known. You find the link to the Subscribe Star, the Storefront, my tarot card deck, comic books, graphic novels, t-shirts. All of that can be found at Abracast.com, my friends. All right, let's get back to this. Divine Folly. I'm standing in a high hall. Before me, I see a green curtain between two columns. The curtain parts easily. I see into a small, deep room with bare walls, and there's a small window with bluish glass above. I set foot on the stairs leading up to this room. Between the pillars and enter. In the rear wall, I see a door right and left. It's as if I must choose right and left. And Jung chooses wisely. He chooses the right. The door is open and I enter. In the reading room of a large library, in the background sits a small, thin man of pale complexion. Apparently the librarian. The atmosphere is troubling. Scholarly ambition, scholarly conceit, wounded scholarly vanity. Apart from the librarian, I see no one. I step towards him, and he looks up from his book and says, "What do you want?" I'm somewhat embarrassed, as I don't know what I really want. Thomas Kempis crosses my mind. I say, I would like to have Thomas Kempis's The Imitation of Christ. He looks at me somewhat astonished, as if he didn't credit me with such an interest. He gives me an order form to fill out. I too think that it is astonishing me to ask for Thomas à Kempis. Are you surprised that I'm requesting Thomas's work? Well, yes, the book is seldom asked for, and I wouldn't have expected this interest from you. I must confess that I'm also somewhat surprised by this inspiration, but recently came across a passage from Thomas that made particular impression on me. Why, I can't really say. If I remember correctly, it dealt with the problem of the imitation of Christ. Do you have a particular theological or philosophical interest, or do you mean whether I want to read it for the purposes of prayer? Well, hardly. If I read Thomas à Kempis, I do so for the sake of prayer or something similar rather than out of scholarly interest. Are you that religious? I had no idea. You know that I value science extraordinarily highly, but there are actual moments in my life where science also leaves us empty and sick. In such moments, a book like Thomas's means very much to me. It is written from the soul, but somewhat old-fashioned. We can no longer get involved in a Christian dogmatics these days, surely. We haven't come to an end with Christianity simply by putting it aside. It seems to me that there is more than we see. But what about it? It's just a religion. For what purpose and moreover, or what age do men set it aside? Presumably, most do so during their student days, or perhaps even earlier. What you call that a particularly discriminating age? And have you ever examined more closely the grounds on which people put aside positive religion? The grounds are mostly dubious, such as that the contents of belief clash with natural science or philosophy. In my view, such an objection would not necessarily be rejected out of hand, despite the fact that there are better reasons. For example, I consider the lack of a true and proper sense of actuality in religion a disadvantage. Incidentally, a host of substitutes now exists for the loss of opportunity for prayer caused by the collapse of religion. Nietzsche, for example, has written a more than venerable book of prayers, not to mention Faust. I suppose, this is interesting. Let's see what Jung has to say about Nietzsche here. I suppose that is correct in a certain sense, but especially Nietzsche's truth strikes me as too agitated and provocative. It's good for those who are yet to be set free. For that reason, his truth is good only for them. I believe that I've recently discovered that we also need the truth of those who are forced into a corner. It's possible that instead they need a depressive truth, which makes man smaller and more inward. Forgive me, but Nietzsche interiorizes man exceptionally well. Perhaps from your standpoint you're right, but I can't help feeling that Nietzsche speaks to those who need more freedom, not to those who clash strongly with life, who bleed from wounds, but who hold fast to actualities. This is all very fascinating. If you're wondering why I have a boner right now, a philosophical boner right now, is I spent a lot, what was it, last year, maybe 2 years ago, spent a lot of time going through Thus Spake Zarathustra by Nietzsche, and I love it. So this is interesting, because as I'm reading through the Red Book, I'm actually like, I feel like it's, how should I say it? I feel like it's like a biblical style text. And I felt like that when I was reading Thus Spake Zarathustra as well. So it's interesting that one is referring to the other. Nietzsche confers a precious feeling of superiority upon such people. I can't dispute that, but I know men who need inferiority and not superiority. Very interesting. You express yourself very paradoxically. And I don't understand you. Inferiority can hardly be desideratum. Perhaps you'll understand me better if instead of inferiority I say resignation, a word that one used to hear a lot of, but seldom anymore. It also sounds very Christian. As I said, there seems to be all sorts of things in Christianity that maybe one would do well to keep. Nietzsche is too optional, like everything healthy and long-lasting truth unfortunately adheres more to the middle way, which we unjustly abhor. I really had no idea that you take such a mediating position. Neither did I. My position is not entirely clear to me. If I mediate, I certainly mediate in a very peculiar manner. This moment, the servant brought the book, and I took my leave from the librarian. The divine wants to live with me. My resistance is in vain. I asked my thinking, and it said, take your model, one that shows how you to live the divine. Our natural model is Christ. We stood under his law since antiquity, first outwardly and then inwardly, and first we knew this and then we knew it no longer. We fought against Christ, we deposed him, we seemed to be conquerors, but he remained in us and mastered us. It's better be thrown into visible chains and then the invisible ones, and you certainly leave Christianity, but it does not leave you. Your liberation from its delusion. Christ is the way. You can certainly run away, but you are no longer on the way. The way of Christ ends. The way of Christ ends on the cross. Hence, we are crucified with him in ourselves. With him we wait until we die for our resurrection. With Christ, the living experience no resurrection unless it occurs after death. If I imitate Christ, he's always ahead of me, and I can never reach the goal unless I reach it in him. But thus I moved beyond myself and beyond time, and through which I am as I am, thus blunder into Christ in this time which created him, thus and not otherwise. And so I'm outside of my time, despite the fact that my life in this time and I am split between the life of Christ and my life. That still belongs to me in this present time. If I am truly to understand Christ, I must realize how Christ actually lived his own life and imitated no one. He did not emulate any model. If I thus truly imitate Christ, I do not imitate anyone. I emulate no one, but go my own way. And I will also no longer call myself a Christian. Initially, I wanted to emulate and imitate Christ by living my life while observing his precepts. A voice in me protested against this and wanted to remind me that my time had also its prophets who struggle against the yoke that which the past burdens us. I did not succeed in uniting Christ with the prophets of this time. The one demands bearing and the other discarding. The one commands submission and the other the will. How should I think of this contradiction without doing injustice to either? What I could not conjoin in my mind probably lends itself to living one after the other. And so I decide to cross over into lower and everyday life, my life, and to begin down there where I stood. When thinking leads to the unthinkable, it is time to return to simple life. What thinking cannot solve, life solves. What if action never decides is reserving for thinking? If I ascend to the highest and most difficult on one hand and seek to eke out the redemption that reaches even higher than the true way does not lead upward but towards The depths sense only my other leads me beyond myself. But acceptance of the other means a descent into the opposite, from seriousness into the laughable, from suffering into cheerful, from the beautiful to the ugly, and from the pure into the unpure. Nox secunda. On leaving the library, I stood at the anteroom again. This time, I look across to the door on the left, and I put the small book into my pocket, and I go to the door, and it is open, and it leads into a large kitchen. A large chimney over the stove, 2 long tables stand in the middle of the room, flanked by benches, brass pots, copper pans, and other vessels stand on shelves along the walls. A large, fat woman is standing at the stove, apparently the cook, wearing a checkered apron. I greet her, somewhat astonished. She seems embarrassed, and I asked her, may I sit down for a while? It's cold outside, and I must wait for something. Please, have a seat. She wipes the table in front of me, having nothing else to do. I take out my Thomas, and I begin to read. The cook is curious and looks at me furtively. Every once in a while, she goes past me. Excuse me, are you perhaps a clergyman? No, why do you think so? Oh, I just thought you might be because you're reading a small black book. My mother, may God rest her soul, left me such a book. I see. And what book might that be? It's called The Imitation of Christ. It's a beautiful book. I often pray with it in the evenings. Well, you have guessed well. I too am reading The Imitation of Christ. I don't believe a man like you would read such a book unless he were a pastor. Why wouldn't I read it? It also does me good to read a proper book. My mother, God bless her soul, had it with her on her deathbed, and she gave it to me before she died. I browse through the book absent-mindedly while she is speaking, and my eyes fall on the following passage in the 19th chapter, quote, the righteous base their intentions more on the mercy of God, which is whatever they undertake, they trust more than their own wisdom, unquote. This is the intuitive method that Thomas recommends, it occurs to me. I turn to the cook. Your mother was a very clever woman, and she did well to give you this book. Yes, indeed, it has often comforted me in difficult hours, and it has provided me good counsel. And I become immersed in my thoughts again. I believe one can also follow one's own nose. It would also be the intuitive method, but the beautiful way in which Christ does this must nevertheless be of special value. I would like to imitate Christ, and an inner disquiet seizes me. What is supposed to happen? I hear an odd swishing and whirring, and suddenly a roaring sound fills the room like a horde of large birds with a frenzied flapping of wings, and I see many shadow-like human forms rush past, and I hear a manifold babble of voices utter the words, "Let us pray at the temple." Where are you rushing off to? I call out. A bearded man with tousled hair and dark, shining eyes stops, turns towards me, and he says, we're wandering to Jerusalem to pray at the most holy sepulchre. Well, take me with you. You cannot join us. You have a body, but we are dead. Who are you? I am Ezekiel, and I am Anabaptiste. Who are those wandering with you? These are my fellow believers. Why are you wandering? We cannot stop, but we must make a pilgrimage to all of the holy places. What drives you to this? I don't know, it just seems that we still have no peace, although we have died in true belief. And why do you have no peace if you died in true belief? It always seems to me as if we had not come to a proper end of our life. Remarkable, how so? It seems to me that we forgot something important that should have been lived. And what was that? Would you happen to know? With these words, he reaches out greedily and uncannily towards me, his eyes shining from its inner heat. Let go, demon. You do not live your animal. Ooh, this is getting good. The cook standing in front of me with a horrified face. She has taken me by the arm and grips me further. For God's sakes, she calls out. Help, what is wrong with you? Are you in a bad way? I look at her astounded and I wonder where I really am. But soon strange people burst in, among them the librarian, infinitely astonished and dismayed at first, then laughing maliciously. Oh, I might have known. Quick, call the police. Before I can collect myself, I'm pushed through a crowd of people into a van. I'm still clutching my copy of Thomas, and I ask myself, what would he say in this new situation? I open the booklet, and my eye falls upon the 13th chapter, where it says, so long as we live here on earth, we cannot escape temptation. There is no man who is perfect and no saint who is sacred, that he cannot be tempted on occasion. Yes, he can hardly be without temptation. Wise Thomas, you always come up with the right answer. That crazy Anabaptist certainly had no such knowledge, or he might have made a peaceful end. He also could have read it in Cicero. Rerun onumum saetius vitae facic setaceum. Oh, my Latin. Bro, give me a break. Sectius vitae tempius metrium. Oh, it goes on. Moritus affert. Okay, so all this means the satiety of all things causes satiety of life. One is sated with life, and the other sated with life, and the time is ripe for death. This knowledge had evidently brought me into conflict with all of society. I was flanked by policemen left and right. Well, I said to them, you can let me go now. Yes, we know all about this, one said, laughing. Just hold your peace. And the other said sternly, so we are obviously heading to the madhouse. That is the high price to pay. One can go this way too, it seems. It's not so strange since thousands of our fellows take that path. And I think we're going to leave it here for it. And we're going to leave it right at the gates of the madhouse. I'm John. This is the Abracast. Please remember to check out Abracast.com, the storefront, tarot cards, graphic novels, feature topic link, mailing list, all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
If you're considering supporting the show on Subscribestar, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on over there. The degree of the Red Archive, which is the $1 a month. You get access to some bonus audio, but there's also 50 plus hours of archived episodes. These are older episodes. They're not on the stream anymore. It's the only place to find them is in the Red Archive. There's a $3 a month tier called the Fellowcraft degree, and that has 30 and 40 hours of exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. You get access to all of those. And those have never been on the stream. Those have never been on the normal show. They're exclusive only to the Fellowcraft degree. $5. The $5 tier is the degree of the Red Mark. And so for $5, you get the archived episodes, you get the Fellowcraft episodes, and then you are able to get some swag, bookmarks, temporary tattoos, exclusive tarot cards, all different kinds of stuff coming out every once in a while. And then for $10 a month, you become a knight in the degree of the Vessel of the Art. So the Vessel of the Art degree, you get the archived episodes, the exclusive episodes, the swag, and then you get like the keystone of all swag. You get your very own Vessel of the Art, which is a full-size, fully glass mason jar with the Abracast sigil logo on it. So if you're considering helping out and supporting the show, that's where you do it, and that's what you get. If you look around on Abracast.com, you can also find PayPal donate button. So if you don't want a monthly thing, another monthly thing to take care of, but you're like, hey, Towers is a good guy. I want to buy him a drink. You shoot me, not a coffee. I don't drink that shit, But you could PayPal me some money. All of your help is appreciated. And, yeah, that's it. I'm John. This is it. Like I said, I'm okay.